I've gamed ever since I was a kid. I grew up on the NES, Game Boy, Super Nintendo, N64, the Sega Saturn, PlayStation, Sega Dreamcast, and eventually landed on Xbox. I have so many core memories of my friends and our siblings just spending countless hours trash talking on Mario Party, Halo multiplayer, and the original GOAT of first-person shooters. You already know, 007 GoldenEye. You literally couldn't tell me shit when I got the golden gun. If you know, you know. But it was really games like The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, and Super Mario 64 that forced me to gain consciousness and really be like, damn, like I kind of want to do this for a living. I want to work in the gaming industry. So that's essentially when the seed was planted. I wanted to work in gaming. Now, fast forward about 15 years and I enter my early 20s, and that's sort of when this journey starts to begin. So this is my story of how I broke into the gaming industry and wound up at Activision, aka Microsoft. Let's dive in. Devs, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Derick. I'm a front-end developer based out of Los Angeles, and in today's video, I'm going to be going over my career journey from college to breaking into the gaming industry. So let's get into it.
We are educators helping people build a foundation for the rest of their lives.
So I initially wanted to be a filmmaker. After seeing films like Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs, Gus Van Sant's Paranoid Park, and Paul Thomas Anderson's Punch Drunk Love, I was just basically locked in. I just wanted to make films and tell stories. Growing up in my teens, I had always sort of been kind of an AV nerd. I had had various camcorders throughout high school, and I would watch shows like Jackass on MTV. And just always pretended that I was one of the camera crew, just getting into a lot of the shenanigans with them. Spike Jonze was always a big influence to me, and that's essentially who I wanted to be. But I started to realize that film school just wasn't realistic at the time, and its tuition was incomprehensibly out of budget, so I started to consider other creative options for myself. This is when I decided to move out of my small Northern California town and enroll in good old ITT Technical Institute in Sacramento, California.
ITT Technical Institute, education for the future.
This is where I enrolled in the design and game development program. So yeah, I mainly studied design, but I did get an intro into HTML and CSS in this program, and even character modeling, and learned a little bit about level design using tools like 3D Studio Max and Maya. I was fortunate enough to receive my first job offer only 3 months post-graduation. I quit my then job at a local Chipotle basically immediately and started my first full-time role. Now, it wasn't in gaming, but honestly, I just wanted to get the fuck out of my parents' house and just get out on my own with my newfound income working full-time. That was literally the only priority for me then. But I did softly continue the coding journey though, as I had picked up a couple of books from the Head First book series by O'Reilly, and just continued to practice HTML and CSS on my spare time.
I am never going to financially recover from this.
Now, at this time, I was still more focused solely on design and was designing specifically for print. I was doing flyers, product packaging, and editorial layout for printed publications such as magazines. After about 2 years, I had shifted gears and started working more hybrid-based roles that required me to do both design and web development. I had roles at startups as well as medium-sized companies and even an agency. I was definitely focused more on web during this era and just nailing down the fundamentals and just, getting a really good foundation and understanding of the syntax and just writing legible semantic code. So much so that I had taken a complete break from a lot of my personal hobbies, including gaming. So I hung up my Xbox controller and took a break to just focus solely on dev at this time, at least for a while. I had even sold my Xbox 360 so that I could focus more on e-learning platforms like Codecademy and Treehouse, just to really drill down on these skills and just practice. Unfortunately, also during this time, I went through it. My dark night of the soul, if you will. From graduating college until this point, I had been laid off from basically every job I ever had until then. No, I'm not kidding. But that's a video for another day. I was around $9,000 in credit card debt and just at my absolute wit's end. 2017 was not a good year for me. I was riding in the front row seat of the struggle bus, and it just felt like it was headed off of a cliff. Shit was rough, but I had really figured that I was in too deep at this point and just needed to see this whole working in tech thing through, and just persisted. I just wasn't about to give up. But I did eventually catch a break in summer 2017 and received a decent job offer at a small company that I was really rooting for, and this turned a lot of things around for me. I was at this role for a little over 3 years. Still doing some occasional design though, but mostly just writing code and building user interfaces. Lo and behold though, the layoff train had pulled back into the station yet again, and your boy was back on another fresh unemployment claim from my good friends at the EDD. Shout out to them. Love my $405 a week. Appreciate that, guys. This came at the end of 2019, and on top of that, the mention of the COVID-19 virus was really just a headline in the media here in the US at that point. It really wasn't yet the story and thing going on, but little did we know.
He's wired in. Is he? Yes. How about now? You still wired in?
So early 2020 hits, and I had tried to kind of do my own thing for a while and started a freelancing business, which failed. I had worked on it for about 7 months and soft launched things in January 2020 and was going for a hard launch in either February or March. Well, we all know what happened in March. That's right. Lockdown, baby. The whole world shut down, and my personal freelancing venture was basically DOA. So now it's lockdown. I break the lease on my downtown apartment and move out to the suburbs to just rent a room from a former colleague of mine and to just kind of slow down and just figure things out. Nobody really knew what was going on at the time, including myself. So I needed to just kind of get my ducks in a row and figure some things out. Financially, I was all right though, as the US Congress had passed the CARES Act and I was already receiving unemployment. So I got the added bonus as a result of that. So fortunately, I was financially situated. I was actually making more money on unemployment than I was at the developer job that I had gotten laid off from. So go figure. But some months go by and I get offered a contract role that's 100% remote, working on a web app that's built in Angular. This role didn't really last that long though. I'd say I was there about 9 to 10 months, but me and several other developers were sort of blindsided one day and got a spontaneous layoff call added to our calendars, and this was in early 2021. So go me. This is layoff like number 6 at this point, and no, I'm not kidding. Like I said, that's a video for another day. So I'm back on the unemployment train yet again, baby, but only for a few short months this time, because a recruiter from Tech Systems reached out to me about a role at Activision, to which I promptly responded like, the video game company, like Guitar Hero, that Activision?
And that's how I wound up here in Los Angeles, California. I meant to shoot this outside, but the weather's just not permitting today. It's just way too windy, and the audio would sound like ass. So here we are, sitting in my car. Adapt, overcome. It's just what we got to do out here in the field. But hey, despite the weather, it's still a gorgeous day, and I've got this beautiful view. I'm up here at Barnsdall Park in East Hollywood. Obviously out there, we've got the Hollywood sign, as well as the Griffith Observatory. That's actually where you can meet Davey.
Davey!
But yeah, everything down below is basically just the Hollywood Hills. But yeah, Southern California has always been a long-time goal of mine. For context, I grew up in Northern California, but a lot of my family is from here. We visit here a handful of times per year, and I've always just been more drawn to it. It's just always like called to me. The vibe here is basically exactly what you see and hear in TV and in movies. It's just the best. I could really sing its praises all day. Expensive as fuck, but nonetheless, the best. Acquiring a job here was really the last piece of the puzzle for myself to just stop screwing around and relocate. Activision is located on the west side, so that's in Santa Monica, but I landed here in Hollywood. But getting a role at a company like where I'm at is about what you'd expect. I had 5 interviews and the process spanned about 6 weeks, so about a month and a half. I had an initial phone screen with the recruiter, then an initial phone screen with the engineering manager, who is now actually my manager, then a panel interview, then a technical eval, which fortunately was one of those take-home tests where you could really just take your time and go heads down on it. I'd say I spent about a good 3 or 4 hours on this portion, then submitted it to the recruiter, who then submitted it to the team to review. There was this really annoying back and forth for a few days where the recruiter couldn't open the test. I was just like, bruh, just double click the index.html file. Like, what are you doing? But they eventually figured it out, submitted things. Then I had another panel interview to walk through the test and go through the code and sort of explain my thought process and all that good stuff. Then lastly, a final interview with just the devs, and then the recruiter after that point would just get back to me with either an offer or a big fat L. Obviously, I got the dub because here I am. So if you're on your dev journey right now and there's a particular industry you really want to get into, this is really just gonna sound cornball as fuck, but don't go looking too hard for it, because what's meant for you will find you and not the other way around. Remember to just deploy some patience and take the L's, because you've got to take the L's before you get to a W. But that's it for this one, devs. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. If you made it this far in the video, I appreciate you watching. Feel free to leave a like or a comment. If not, no hard feelings. I will hopefully catch you in the next one. And as always, if you want to support the channel, all you have to do is